Welcome, Web3 media friends, to another Overtime Show. We are here today with Jordan Bayne. Holy cow, it's been a long time coming. We've been looking to get Jordan on the show for so long because we've been so familiar with your work, and we've been following the Film Squad's work here on the show. Doing as best as I can to support during the Film Summit, which just happened. It feels like yesterday, but it's now like a couple of weeks, and so catching up on 3 weeks. Oh my gosh, of that really great weekend that we had about this convergence of the world of film, cinema, media, television, and how Web3 tools can help advance, and eliminate barriers for voices, and so many great discussions from that. But let's get right into it. Welcome, Jordan Bayne.
Hey, it's great to be here. Always great to talk about things that we're passionate about. Film, the art of filmmaking, being an artist, Film3.
I mean, it must have been really satisfying for you as an artist to be around so many like minds at the summit. I think that was the great takeaway for all of us was we were all interested in this space and sort of not just having our own voice, but also hearing other voices. What were some of the most satisfying moments for you walking away from that amazing summit?
I think, oh gosh, I would say realistically, honestly, in the middle of it, it's kind of asking like a first AD, how did the day go? Yeah, it was good. But
We
there's
got it. It's in the can.
it's in the can. But there was no real. It took me a long time to process, and I think that the feedback. I mean, certainly when I looked out and I saw everyone really vibing, like literally the energy in the room, I could feel that in the moment. But I really was like trying to just like make sure that it didn't go off the rails at any point. Um, and I'm super proud of what we did, and it was pretty extraordinary. But like what I said that day, one of those days, I think on the last day, and is that I may have built the structure for the Film 3 Summit and curated everything, but truthfully, what gave it its success, what gave it its life, were the people, was our community, was everyone coming together and really vibing with each other, meeting each other, the joy, the kindness, like the love in that room. Not to be like too esoteric, but it's really true. You could feel the energy was so high. Everyone had such a good time. But I think for me, I was able more to process it now, like 3 weeks later. It's almost 3 weeks tomorrow when we launched it, and now I'm like, oh my God, you can see the connections, on Twitter and in the spaces and in the Discord. That that brings me joy. Now that like makes all of those days that I thought that I was smashing my head against a wall trying to make it happen completely worth it because I don't know. I mean, I know we're going to get into this, what it means to be an artist and things like that. And for me, the pod and the film something yourself. So to see the which is bigger than the squad is than Jordan is serving the in that way. That is, I mean, bring the most joy. It's like a story, in a film.
And it's so great. You said this amazing, beautiful, almost soliloquy of sentences, but we got rugged. So I'll just kind of keep moving on, sadly, because of that little technical glitch of having hiccups. I think from this is the thing about the Web3. I think interface is. I think we all have a lot of very low expectations. It's a very low bar. I think we're just so inquiring about sort of the mindsets and the ideas that we're willing to get rugged like 9 times. I will jump back on and forth. I think I did it yesterday. I was like, I got kicked out of, I got rugged out of spaces. I jumped back in. I was like, can I be a speaker? And then I got rugged again. I kept jumping, but you have to persist, right? You persist through the technological hiccups, and you finally get through, to the ideas. And I think that, what you're speaking about is something that I think a lot of multi-hyphenates and because this space is so multidisciplinarian, we're expressing our our ways of artistry, our love of community, and so many different things at the same time. And I think that's what a lot of us fall in love with about in this space. And but there's trade-offs, and I think that, as you were saying, like, the artistry, the trade-off, but because we love it all, and because, I know you're an actor, and a director and a writer, like you're such a creator, that I think people like that, especially myself. We love community too. So it's like, it's addictive. The community aspect is super addictive to us.
Yeah, I mean, I know we glitched out. I don't know what part you missed, or maybe you missed the whole thing, but yeah, the community. I mean, as an artist, as an actor, as a writer, as a director, really the point that I was trying to make is that, for me, it's always about serving like something greater than yourself, and in those cases, it's story. You always serve story, and if you're not serving story, I don't really understand what you're doing, because then I think it becomes about ego.
What's the
But
story? What's the story for Web3 for you that you're serving?
better future for filmmakers. I mean, for me, and Web3 is very specific, right? So it's the movement, it's the Film3 movement that we've created, and why is that? And why is that meaningful? Because myself and so many others, mostly marginalized communities and the underrepresented communities, have faced so many gatekeepers along the way. I mean, my story is not unusual. Um, I mean, The Sea Is All I Know was an Oscar contender. Everyone said that was my calling card, and that should get me into the rooms to make a feature film, and it didn't. And it was like someone putting a carrot on a stick out in front of you, and like, this is the thing that you get. I did all the things. I did all the things. I got a feature film. I packaged it with A-list talent. I did all the things, and the financing didn't come through. And there are things that we just have to understand are systemic realities. And the systemic reality, unfortunately, is that there are gatekeepers who decide what the audience wants. And so for me, the story of Film3 and the Web3 ethos being, about self-sovereignty. I mean, just take it back to crypto too, the self-sovereignty and that, the importance of that, but the ownership of your own IP, the way that you can remove these gatekeepers that have inserted themselves between you and your audience, or your community, however you want to call it, so that you as a creator um, have the opportunity, especially if you've been in a marginalized community, you have the opportunity to get your story told. So, or to get your voice, to tell stories that other people want to see. And it's not going to be, those makers are not going to get in the way. The decision makers become your community, because they decide to rally around you and say your voice is important. So we see that with Julie Pacino. We see that, with the fringe drifters, wherever your interests lie, right? We see that with Luis Filfrico and the work that he's doing. So we see those stories happening. And I think that is the story of Film3, is that we are building a pathway that is a better future for filmmakers, for all filmmakers.
And I think you're doing it in this very ingenious and innovative way, which is through spaces. I mean, you were one of the first, I think, to really capture this medium of Twitter Spaces. And I was actually, we had spoken before about this. I was starting like, similar conversations, but like on Facebook and like Reddit, like, just in very like static environments where we would get a few eyes, but the way to sort of grow the movement has the way you've been amplifying the movement through Twitter Spaces has been phenomenal. And is that something that you anticipated when you started it? What drew you to the format?
Well, what drew me first was Clubhouse, right? So we started there, and the format for a lot of us, especially introverts, I know it's hard to believe, but I really do fall into that category. It was really great to be able to just go on Clubhouse and listen to this conversation. It was like listening to a podcast, but like this lively podcast with all these voices. So when I decided to start the squad there, it it was great. I mean, it took a long time for us to find people. There was no filmmakers. It was, I mean, I always say it was like a wasteland out there for filmmakers in Web3, but or even anyone in the industry. But at some point, I realized that Spaces and Twitter, because we were amplifying on Twitter, but we were saying, "Hey, come to Clubhouse," and people on Androids couldn't come to Clubhouse, so it seemed like, and I just thought, well, wait a second, all these years, writer Twitter has been a huge, huge thing. You see all these WGA writers, they're always on Twitter, they're always like giving away great alpha and talking to each other and congratulating, whatever. And I was like, Twitter, we should be on Twitter because we need to expand. We need people to know we're here so that we can start to build this ecosystem, this community. And so that, I can't remember when we switched over to Twitter, but that was and some of my friends who were moderators in Clubhouse, like just NFT moderators for projects, big projects, they also were moving to Twitter Spaces. And just, even though we were like, oh my God, you can't have 50 people on stage, what's going to happen to the conversation? It's okay, it works. You get 11 people on stage. You just have to be cognizant if you have a room where a lot of people want to get in the conversation. But I also think that now that we're not all sitting at home as much as we were, when we were in the pandemic, uh, people have less time to spend on Twitter Spaces, so they're happy to come in quickly, listen, get out. You know what I mean? So we hold our spaces pretty
And half
short.
and
I'm
half of
sure.
those are working parents like myself. We're just like, there's a
Yeah.
kid screaming right next to me. I can't go on speaker. I guess you're gonna hear this. But I think that it's a smart move in which to begin to, as we were talking about, like amplify movements and get exposure to where somebody might come across and discover a topic that you're talking about and be interested in a topic, and then want to get involved deeper and further with the philosophies that you often express. And I love that about your spaces is, you get the vibe right away. You're so great at resetting the room. Like, this is how it's going to go. No BS. Let's get down to it. And let's talk, how do we help artists? And so by putting out that flag, I think you've done so well in attracting, partners like Beam and Jump Cut and other great people in this space. Is it hard for you to, I guess, let's talk about like sort of, that you get the outreach, like somebody wants like, oh, hey, I don't want to work for 18 months like you. How can I link up with you and sort of, can you hotwire me into this community? How do you balance those opportunities?
I'm going to be really honest about that, guys. It's hard. Like, I've been going through, just personally, as I'm an artist, and suddenly I'm on this learning curve, right? And juggling my ability to even look at my DMs at this point, I can't even look at my DMs for a lot of different reasons. Look, it's not just because people want to bypass community; they want to come straight to the source, right? But if you come straight to the source all the time, like if I spend my entire day taking meetings with everyone that wants meetings with me, I'm not going to be able to take care of the macro picture. I'm really torn about that because I feel like everybody has value, and I want to know their story because that's part of being a community leader. But at the same time, I can't take the squad. I can't build the Film3 Summit. I can't keep bringing value in a bigger way as the squad, right? As a squad. I can't keep bringing that value to the entire community if I am having 20 private conversations a day. So I find that really hard. I find it hard to say no. I find it hard to balance. I don't even know how you choose those things. I decide very quickly there's two things. When someone comes and you can kind of feel it, and that they're just extractive. I use this word all the time.
Come on, we're in Hollywood. We know the type. Come on.
Yeah. And they're just extractive. So they're just trying to extract. That's pretty easy for me to ignore. Or just, put somebody else on that, and step away. Like, Um, but the cool thing about, and I had to say, there's a Twitter thread going right now, and it's just so beautiful, because the cool thing about the Film3 ecosystem, and I'll just say the squad in particular, is that everyone's additive. I mean, pretty much, I would say 99% of the people that have a squad member pass and that are truly adding value to one another's lives and to projects and things like that. So I think I'm being circular,
No,
certainly
but
about.
I am actually number 51 of the Film Squad NFT collection. Proudly, I was trying to aim for 50, but somebody literally just got it before. I'm like 49 and go. I get stupid like that, but I was thankful to get number 51 because I think you guys are about to close the opportunity by this airing. You'll have, I think it's just a few days left. I believe you said Monday, correct?
On Tuesday, yeah, on
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
You'll have a
Yeah,
cutoff. And but take me through that process because that was, that's a long time coming of doing your token drop when, you could have just cashed in very early. But I think you really thought about this. And I want to walk through that process of like you got into the space, it's a bull market. Everybody's dropping mints. You're seeing, Julie, you're seeing,
yeah.
Kelly. You're like, okay, what do I do here?
Well, it was far earlier than that. In June of 2021, I began to write sort of this idea of what it could be. What, and a lot of that came certainly out of the Board Ape Yacht Club and watching them create a creator economy. I mean, literally. And I was like, oh my God, if we could replicate that in some way, like truly replicate that for filmmakers, if we could really be there for one another as a community. So I got super inspired, so I wrote sort of like this messy white paper full of ideas, and a lot of them we've been able to implement at the Film3 Summit, actually dropping a utility pass, like, and it's the dream that I have is that is that if you're in the Film3 movement, and certainly if you decide to pick up a squad member pass and the things that we have that I would like to see us roll out, that that if we airdrop something to our community, that it will actually continue to add value, just like the Kennel Club did, and just like the Mutants did. They each continued to add value. They were fun, but the community said, they just stayed strong. They're like, this community is worth it to me. And so, and if they wanted to flip, they flipped and they made money. In other words, the artist gets to, or the, for me, it's the artist, because the squad is absolutely 100% filmmakers and artists. I don't think we have a flipper. We have zero volume on OpenSea because no one is selling their squad member pass, right? And we
We
have
all see the
89.
value. I think that's the thing in terms
Yeah.
of feedback for you. We all see the value in what you're growing. And I think that in terms of just, from the business standpoint, as an artist, we're always trying to balance this here on the show and how to get involved and how to develop as a business so that you can sustain yourself. And your mission is exponential because how do you sustain a movement? And I think that you've been doing well. You do the passes, you mint, and then you're going to have, some revenue, but, it's going to be enough to, I think, attract what you've done, sponsors. And, you're starting to roll now, I think, with that type of interest. And then, now it just kind of becomes like, what partners do you need to continue on that mission? Um,
Yeah, for
who is it
sure.
who is it that you think you need to grow in the future?
Who is it that I think I need?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't even have an answer to that question. I think for what we need is the reason I'm closing the mint. We need true believers, and I think we have that. So if someone is questioning whether or not they want to be a part of the squad, especially after this, I mean, I've literally been doing this 24/7 for free for 18 months. I did this without asking without asking anything back from the community. And I really believe that asking the community to pay, point one ETH for a squad pass, it was somewhere around $118 at the time. And then you get a 3-day summit out of that, which, already I think the utility was there, right? And all that money did for us was allow us to get a little bit out of debt, put some into the Film Summit, and kind of help with some operations, which you really need, because I just can't keep doing everything by myself, and Julian can't. do everything either. And so, who do we need? I want believers. I want like people that understand the values so that we grow the community together. So, I mean, going back to the Bored Ape Yacht Club, every time they dropped something, their community members basically got richer. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if our community really valued things and held them, or would not flip them for anything more than like a certain price, and they were bringing money into themselves? So suddenly I see like we create a true creator economy. This is the dream. I have no idea if it's realistic or not, but that's so when you ask me that question, who's a partnership? I think we already have great partners, and they may not be official. We're already out here with incredible colleagues that are part of the Film 3 movement. That is Beam and Mihai and Tess, and that is Stephen from Bingeable and Julie from Keepers, and on and on and on. I mean, David and Tanya and Winnie over there at Jump Cut, and I really could go on and on and on and on down the list, right? Of amazing colleagues that we're all just laying bricks now. I think the squad built the foundation of Film 3, and people, as Steven says, it's like now the foundation is coming above the land, and people can see it, and now you've got all of these other projects coming in, and they're saying we're here for Film 3, and all these other filmmakers, they're building a city. Really, we're building. Just think about it in the metaverse. We're building a city out there.
And as I think we were saying maybe yesterday on a Spaces that like now it's like now you're getting settlers, now you're getting like sort of the development, as sort of the movement grows and as people understand that there is a way to sustain yourself potentially. Those who follow the channel know that I'm involved with several projects that are involved, and I got an amazing update today. I was blown away. But watch to earn, listen to earn, that's happening so much faster than I thought. It's literally, we're testing it now this week, like on my phone, and I'm like, it's working, guys. This is crazy. So that hopefully the sustainability of it is hopefully soon, and it helps to service breaking down barriers for people, because that was something that I was really inspired by at the Film Summit. The breadth of people that you were able to bring together for that summit was incredible. The true diversity of thought and of life experiences and different walks was really, I was blown away, honestly, by that presentation.
They were cool. It was cool to have all those. But what's the one thing I would say aside from like the vast amount of experience is the vast amount of like humility they have for their massive experience, and the willingness to come in and say, we also see a better way, and we really want to like help build this better way. I mean, it was a super grateful for those panels where I was look at me, I'm full of joy. I didn't think about those panels.
Well, it was, I think, a moment to be proud of, because it was something that, we all kind of looked around. We're like, just remember who was in this room. Remember the people that were at this event. Remember the people that were on the panels and in the audience. And it was just so amazing. It was just like, I didn't even know like Tino was in the audience. I was like, oh, dude, you were here. I was like, I had no idea, because it was just so focused in on the panel, I guess. But the idea of the community, being so special, and truly it being something that, you created. It's something that I think, as we talk about sometimes, in passing of like, how to keep it going and how to sustain it. What is it that somebody who's, maybe interested in film can do, or Film 3 can do in terms of, getting involved with NFT Film Squad, or their own, careers? Maybe they're, in a different place that they're not able to connect with the Film Squad, but I feel like it's all over and it's Twitter. But what is it that they can do to connect with the NFT Film Squad and help pursue their dreams in cinema?
Yeah, I mean, I do want to keep saying I may have founded the squad, but I'm not the squad. The squad's the community. So you come to Twitter Spaces. We do 4 of them a week, and you're already plugging in. I mean, you might just see avatars around you, but you start to follow, start to get them on your timeline. You get a lot of alpha just by scrolling your timeline if you're really locked into the Film3 community, right? And then, if you want to get more involved, there's Beam you can do, like you can go in and get involved with Beam by setting up your own channel, or you can go to screenings. You can come to our Discord. Our Discord is I would not say our Discord is the most crazy active. I think that we spend more time on Twitter together. I feel like there's a real bonding that happens in the spaces. Like I look out over those avatars and I know everyone even before I met them IRL. And, that didn't happen till Cannes. That did not happen till May for me, that I actually met a lot of the people that I was building side by side. And then we had a great party in NFT NYC, and then we threw an epic summit in Los Angeles, and we've got more coming down the pipe. We've got presence in those some things I can't announce yet that have happened, but we will have a really cool presence actually in Los Angeles at NFT LA. So if you can make those things, but if you can't, so you're a filmmaker in, I don't know, wherever, London, or well, if you're in London, actually, you can, on Tuesday nights they have the Film3 meetup. So I mean, but let's just say, I don't even know. Let's say you're in Lebanon, and you can't make it for whatever reason. And a lot of people don't have big bags, and it's a tough time in the world for economically everywhere. You can we live stream. In fact, you can go to Beam right now, and the whole summit is recorded. So all those panels are there. You can go get the alpha. It's not token gated. It's free. Uh, there's a lot of ways to plug in. I think you just have to
if you're an artist, let's say you're an artist and you've just discovered Film3 and you've discovered this group, what is it that you would be doing just as an artist to move your vision forward? How would you connect?
What I'd be doing in this moment?
Yes.
Okay. So if I knew nothing about Film3 or Web3 or an NFT, I would be spending a fuck ton of time on Twitter, in the threads, asking questions. I go into the Discord because the support is there, the generosity is there. People answer your questions. They'll answer it on a Twitter thread too. That's the beauty of that one thread I was talking about earlier. People jumping in to help this guy decide whether he should get a squad member pass or not. For me, again, I just want true believers, but he may end up being a true believer because he's brand new and he doesn't know the things that you know and the things that people who've been around know. And the other thing I would say is then start to learn about how it all works. We are in a build market, and we've had a bearish week. And again, that doesn't affect me because I don't know, we were talking about earlier. It's always been tough as an independent filmmaker. So it's like, tough times are just, we eat that for breakfast. So, but I would learn. And then if you have a question like, okay, I have a short film, should I just put it on the blockchain? Well, maybe not. Depends on how long it is. Learn about the technicals. Again, you just ask the questions, and the answers are really there, and the answers are free. And why the answers are free is because the cool thing about the Film3 community, and again the squad in general, is that we want to grow it. We want you to, because we know this is a better future. We know that ownership of your IP is a better future than giving it up to a gatekeeper. We know that having a majority of the revenue come your way will help you have a sustainable living. We know that self-sovereignty is important, right? We know that these are significant things. So just ask the questions. If you have a feature film and you're like, oh, I'm going to fund it through NFT, just say, probably not, but not in this market, but it's not impossible, right? Depends on what you want. If you want to do $1 million, maybe it might take you a little while. I mean, Miguel is a great case study with Galladita, but he didn't, he's still, after film is in the can, he's still trying to get his budget, right? He didn't mint out, but fortunately, he showed up. he worked really hard. He worked every angle, and he was able to get enough to go shoot that film. So I'd say that there are, if you just want to mint it, let's say you want to mint it, like I did with Red Flag, then figure out where's the best platform. Right now, I'd say stay far away from OpenSea. But Zora has always been there as a protocol, and that's where I originally minted Red Flags, because they had the right file size. It's not a great file size, we got a lot of challenges. But I also have a really cool possibility of a project. I was talking with someone yesterday, and we were just thinking, all right, so we still have the issue of how do you actually get the money to go out, even if it's a short film, if you're not going to sell NFTs. Well, there's a couple of cool things you can do. You can figure out how to fund it. You can, fund it the old way with, I don't know, your credit card. And then you can do an NFT strategy afterwards, like Under the Influencers feature film. So they didn't do an NFT drop beforehand, but they integrated NFTs into the story, right? It's called Under the Influencer, and they have an NFT strategy that's coming afterwards. So they utilize old school, and now they are, going to do some sort of NFT drop around the completed feature film. So there's a lot of different super innovative ways that you can, by the way, you can't do it without community. So I bring it right back to plug in. The squad is a built-in community, and literally the squad, all of the 300 and something people that own squad member passes that are around, they embrace you with open arms.
That's the great part about, that community, and why we're highlighting it today, especially, is that, it's sort of the vibe filters from the top down. And I wanted to get everyone to get a sense of you and your philosophy, and because it's just full of kindness and sacrifice. My gosh, the level of sacrifice, from the artistic standpoint, I know it myself, because I'm doing this instead of editing right now. It's just like we're sacrificing our own, love of our craft in order to progress this movement, because we know it's going to help somebody. It's going to help somebody feel less alone in this space. And the more we can replicate that, the more people we can help. So thank you again, Jordan. Again, I think these are always just one conversation, and I hope this is the first of many, that you don't get too gosh darn busy that we can never get you again. But I love and I cherish the times that we get to hang with you. But you can always jump onto your spaces, And so check out Film Squad, NFT Film Squad Discord. I'll put all the pertinent details down below, that you can find them, especially in that Discord, so that you can ask those questions of the community, get them answered, as well as on Twitter, and then join the spaces. And hopefully, if you're around LA, NFT LA, I think is going to be a really fantastic time to get a lot of questions answered, as well as develop, your community. Should you be around, or should you be able to make it there? IRL events we rave about, and they're so impactful and special. And even with Film Summit, I think a lot of us walked away having friends. These are going to be our friends, our really good friends, for the next 10 years, because this is going to be a movement.
Yeah, for sure. I love this. Let's just make this episode 1 of a series, because we know how this landscape changes very, very quickly.
Yeah, in 2 days it'll be completely different.
Completely different, but love this. Thank you so much for inviting me, and always happy to come on and talk about art and I want to say activism, but I don't feel like I'm an activist. I just feel like I want a lot of people in the world, especially artists, to be able to have sustainable livings and live their birthright, to be able to feel like that they've fulfilled their potential as human beings while we walk this mortal coil.
Thank you, Jordan. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, ciao.